rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
All right, hello, and welcome to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. You guys, I've been debating, and I want to hear from you. Message me because I've been using this moniker. What have I been saying? Good Lord, Gabe, what have I been saying? This is your daily dose of objective truth in the world of lies. And I try my best to bring you information and be just straight up honest with you. And just try to be clear in my presentation of articles and columns that I read and the facts of the political, cultural issues of the day. But one of the things that I used to use, or the moniker that I used to use, is communicating American exceptionalism to the common man by making politics personal. I'm thinking about using that instead, going back to that, communicating American exceptionalism by making politics personal. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Wherever you follow me on social media, The Carl Jackson Show, just message me. Let me know what you think. I'm interested in hearing from you. I'm interested in hearing what you guys would like me to touch on and talk about. I want to make sure that I'm in touch with the people, the common man. I do believe that I am the common man in the United States of America amongst many of you that are listening in, and I do appreciate you. Also, I do, again, want to remind you to please subscribe to the podcast wherever podcasts are found, including Apple, Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Please subscribe to our YouTube and Rumble channels. We'd love for you to watch the videos. Again, social media, The Carl Jackson Show. And guys, without my sponsorship, none of this stuff is possible. So please support Mike Lindell, the Patriot, and the guy that's fighting for election integrity, which actually I'm going to be sitting in for Brandon Tatum tonight. I'm going to get into some election integrity issues. So make sure that you guys check me out tonight. But please support my Pillow, Mike Lindell, My Pillow. Also support this podcast right now. You can go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L, use that promo code, and you can get a special deal on the Giza Dream Sheets and the Perkel bed sheets. They come in a variety of sizes and colors. The prices are as low as $29.98 for my listeners. I thought I got the pricing wrong. I didn't. $29.98 for my listeners. A 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee on these sheets. All you have to do is go to mypillow.com, use the promo code Carl. Click on that radio listener square. Give them a call, 1-800-858-0263. 1-800-858-0263. Hey guys, racial profiling is good for your health. As a matter of fact, racial profiling will save your life. I'm going to get into that in just a second. I'm going to show you a video. So hopefully you're watching the video of today's, or you will watch the video of today's podcast. Before I do, though, I'm looking off to the side here. I apologize about that. But I just want to read you some of the headlines today. And some of these headlines I'll get into, again, when I'm sitting in for Officer Tatum. Just don't have enough time to do it today. But I just want you to understand where we stand in the world as Americans. Biden denounces the OPEC reduction in oil output when this is completely self-induced or self-imposed. This is a self-imposed problem. Biden is going to make a lot of us poor. I think that ties into today's podcast, but I won't get into it right now because I think that the United States is going to become a much more violent place as prices continue to skyrocket and people begin to suffer, perhaps like we've not seen in God knows how long. The U.S. debt surpasses $31 trillion. We don't even talk about it. Everyone says, and I often hear conservatives will say, well, it's kind of a boring topic. Well, it's not boring when it hits your household. It's not boring when literally your dollar is worth less every day. It's literally. These guys are spending like there's no tomorrow in Washington, D.C. Biden, comes down. He talks about global warming, and here in Florida, when he met with Governor Ron DeSantis, what an out of touch moron. And now we basically, he said something to the effect, now there's no denying global warming or climate change and all this. No one has ever denied climate change. There's 4 seasons, you freaking moron. So anyway, I'll get into that, the myths of that, the lies about that. Just understand that what the left does, what they always do, is try to create a crisis or keep you in fear. If they can keep you in fear or create a crisis, what the left believes and what they have learned over the years is that many people will run into the arms of the Democratic Democrat Party. That is what that is all about. Another thing, rising interest rates hit the housing market hard. Obviously, the housing market is slowing down big time. What does that mean for you and I? That means that more people are going to be poor over time because fewer Americans are going to be able to buy houses. If you can't buy houses, the most prevalent way that Americans build up wealth in their lives is they buy a house. It increases in value over time. They may sell it, they may rent it out, or what have you. But it has all this equity as the price goes up. You buy a house for $300,000, and in 20 years, the thing is worth $700,000 or something. You have all of that equity, all of that money. That dream is being taken away from people. The Supreme Court. I'm just giving you the rundown of the headlines for today. The Supreme Court is to look at Section 230, which could have a significant effect on how social media platforms operate. This is good news, in my opinion. I think that these organizations, these big tech organizations, need to be run or looked at as common carriers. There should be free speech on these platforms. These platforms have grown too big, and normally I'm not against that, but these guys have grown so powerful. I think they're more powerful than the federal government. It's like these big tech organizations are the organizations that set the news for the day. It's no longer the media outlets, and when they can censor people like you and I, it has a major effect. It needs to be fair play. Free speech is free speech in the United States of America. Why do you think the Tony Bobolinsky story is nowhere to be heard? You can thank social media for that. And that's why I'm glad Twitter is going back into Elon Musk's hands. Obviously, there's alternative sites now. Rumble is one. Please subscribe. The Carl Jackson Show on Rumble. Very important. A New York university professor has been fired because his classes were too challenging for students. I actually read this column probably a couple of days ago, but it's just appearing on the tip sheet here. It was in another publication, but nonetheless, these are people in this particular classroom that are striving to be doctors. A portion of them that takes his class, I can't remember the exact number. 84. 84 students out of several hundred complained that the class was too hard. These are people that are striving to be doctors, complained that this guy's his chemistry class was too hard for them. And I think it's biochemistry. And as a result, they fired the guy. Instead of telling the students, maybe you should pursue another profession, they fired the professor. Insane. Taiwan warns China if airspace is breached again, it will be seen as a first strike. Guys, with Biden in office, nothing is impossible. I'm really concerned about Taiwan. Taiwan has not built up their military and taken heed the way that they should have in the last couple of decades. And I think the chickens may come home to roost. I'm not sure how you stop this at this point, particularly with Biden in the White House. The Russia-Ukraine war, I do believe there needs to be a truce at this point. Like, what the hell is going on? I'm sorry. I believe that America, I think we had a responsibility to help protect Ukraine in order to keep that buffer between our NATO allies. But Joe Biden he's just totally destroyed that. He's totally destroyed that. And now we're just sending them money to no end and funding our own proxy war against Russia, instead of what he should have done was just initially from the onset, when you saw Russia organizing troops at the border of Ukraine, you should have given them the weaponry without any ties to it, weaponry they needed to make sure that Putin was deterred. And now Putin has annexed several regions, despite the fact that he may be doing bad, but he's going and saying, listen, these are our territories now. So you lunch. It's on like Donkey Kong. This is getting really scary. These people are inching us into World War III, and I'm very concerned. I'm not going to lie to you. Very concerned. Gun dealers are required to provide FBI addresses of individuals that are denied or delayed purchases. So this is a way to undermine the Second Amendment and get more information from gun buyers. Ron DeSantis goes off on illegal aliens caught looting. They should not be here at all, he says. He's exactly right about that. I'm going to go over some news on the Officer Tatum show tonight, where the number of voters in the last several years from foreign-born voters, and that's not all bad. It's not all bad, but the numbers are so massive, particularly in swing states. It proves the left is doing exactly what we all thought, and that is trying to change the demographics within the United States. Focus on the Family wants to remind students to bring their Bibles to school today. So students, if you're listening to this, be bold, be brave, be a Christian, take your Bible to school today. Don't be afraid to express your values when the world, the secular left, they're never afraid to express their values. Now, getting on with the show, I want to talk about racial profiling. Racial profiling is going to save your life, may one day save your life. I want to play you this video clip. This is of some black ladies, some young black ladies or black women. I won't use the word ladies, but black women that beat up some white women inside of the New York City subway train. It doesn't appear that the white women started anything or caused or instigated any type of confrontation. It just looked like these women were having fun with them. And I want you to watch this. And I'm going to say some stuff that I don't think is probably comfortable for people to hear. You can call me whatever names you want. But I'm going to tell you, growing up in the hood, it is very important that you racially profile. And anyone that says differently is lying to you. It doesn't mean you're a racist. It means you might be a thinker. It means that you are situationally aware. These are just the facts of the matter. The facts are that blacks overwhelmingly commit the vast majority of violent crimes. So that's just a fact. You can't get away from it. That's not saying that whites don't commit crime and Latinos don't commit crime. Of course they do. Plenty of them within our prison system, within our jail system. There's plenty, but overwhelmingly, percentage wise anyway, blacks commit a large portion of the violent crimes in America. I think upwards or close to 50% of the homicides, maybe mid 40s to 50% of the homicides, if I recall correctly, are committed by blacks within the United States of America. And we make up 13% of the population. No one wants to talk about that. If you're a sellout, if you talk about it, but that's why I ignore black leftists, because they're not going to help the black community. If you continue to pander to the black community, you're not helping the black community. Sorry, it's just not happening. So here's the video. Gabe is going to run this video for you, and then I'm going to comment on it, and I'm going to share some stories with you that I hope will help you to understand why racial profiling can and will save your life. You don't need to be obvious when you do it. I'm gonna talk to you about some experiences that I've had where racial profiling, I believed, saved my life. Here's the video. And it's hard to see the young girl in the background. That's a neon green gang of 6 women allegedly robbed 2 teens. Man, it's insane. Okay. All right. So there's the video. There you have it. And this is happening, sadly, too much, and particularly blue cities where you have these soft on crime district attorneys. They don't like being called soft on crime. Now that we're headed into the midterms, they definitely don't want to be called that. They're lying, trying to pretend as though they are not soft on crime. A lot of these left wing DAs, but in fact they are. This is why crime is just unreal and skyrocketing in some of these places. Not to mention that a lot of these places have cut the budgets, their police budgets, including New York, Chicago, you name it, LA. It's unreal to me. All right, so I'm going to give you a couple of examples and why I think racial profiling can and will save your life. And perhaps you don't need to talk about it, but I do want you to be aware of it. Let's look at that particular video. If you're in New York City, all right, if you're in New York City, if you're in a blue city, if you're in a dangerous area of the city, if you happen to be in New York and you're in the subway, here's what I'm going to watch out for. I'm going to watch out for packs or groups of people, particularly if there are packs of, let's say, let's say black females, young black females like that. If it's a pack of young black females, unless they look like nerds and they're stepping on the train from NYU and they got their glasses and their sweaters and a laptop or something, yeah, I'm not going to be concerned about them. All right. There's always exceptions to the rule. But if you're looking at girls dressed like that, a bunch of black girls getting together, if I'm a person that happens to not be a minority or not black, I'm keeping my eyes out. I'm keeping my head on a swivel. This is common sense to me. Some people may be offended by this. I don't care. I think that people that do listen to this and take heed, or I think lives can be saved, or at least based upon this video, brutal beatings. I can save you from brutal beatings. And if I can do that, I definitely consider that a plus. If you're walking in a neighborhood that is particularly bad and you see a group of young black teenage boys or, young men all hanging out together, guess what? I'm crossing the street. I'm trying to take a different route. I'm being fully aware of my surroundings, just based upon the likelihood that if I'm going to get attacked or if I'm going to be the victim of a violent crime, suffice it to say, it's likely going to be by a group of black people. The numbers overwhelmingly show that. That's just a fact. That's just a fact. It's sad, but it's fact. It's a fact. I grew up in predominantly, I was born in Compton, California, but predominantly lived the majority of my younger life or youth in a city called Linwood, also Long Beach, with those of you that are familiar with that. And some of the territories that I lived in, or the territories that we lived in, were usually gang infested. We weren't rich people. I didn't realize, how poor we were until later on, or back in the day when my mom took us school shopping and all we could do is buy Tough Skins, and then we wouldn't buy Pro Wings. Those of you that may be on the West Coast and familiar, actually on the East Coast too, Payless Shoe Source back in the day, they used to have these shoes, Pro Wings, and they would try to fashion them. They were pleather. They weren't real leather. They would try to fashion them after some of the name brands. And my mom she wouldn't buy us Pro Wings because everybody knew you were poor, but she would buy the different named brands inside of Payless, like Cheetah and stuff like that. I think even to try to fool us. I remember buying a pair of Cheetahs, or she giving us a pair of Cheetahs that looked like these cool Nikes that I wanted. I was like, and kids were like, "What are those shoes?" And I was like, "Oh, these are Cheetahs. Are those Pro? No, these are Cheetahs. Oh, those look pretty cool." It was anyway. It was the craziest thing. I don't know why I got into that, but I'm telling you that racial profiling will save your life. And growing up where I grew up, I lived in areas where there were different gangs in different territories, and I had to walk through them. I went to Lugo Elementary in Linwood. I went to Hausler Junior High. I went to Linwood High before transferring later to Long Beach, Jordan, for a very short period of time before I ended up dropping out of school, to be honest with you, eventually going back and getting a high school diploma. My sister-in-law helped me with that. I got to give her props. Tasha Show. It was, you just learn growing up in those environments. You learn to have fun. I mean, you have fun. Everything seems normal to you, but you learn to keep your head on a swivel. So I can tell you that walking to school, first off, we had a neighbor right across the street, and his family was from a Mexican gang, Compton Barrio, T-Flats. Around the corner was another gang, Mexican gang, young crowd, some people that lived there. Ironically, these gangs warred against each other. And so one of the things that we would do is, if we knew somebody from one of these gangs and they were in the neighborhood, we'd watch out. They were Mexican cholos. They were cholos. So we knew what areas to avoid. In order to stay safe, we had to learn this stuff. We had to learn to racially profile. And I believe that it saved our lives. I learned what areas to the best of my ability to avoid, what streets, what blocks to the best of my ability to avoid when walking home. We walked home in packs for the most time. Most times it was very rare. It was very rare that I walked home alone. Very rare. And so there was Young Crowd, there was Pendleton Ave Crips. Those were mostly mostly a black gang. There was Neighborhood Crips. There was Nutty Block Crips. There was Fruittown Piru. There was Ghost Town. I mean, it was insane. I knew of all of these gang territories walking to that. When I named all of those were primarily to my middle school or junior high, they called them at the time. And I can remember, and we knew, okay, we want to stay clear of this area. We want to stay clear of this area. There was a group, there was a gang, Neighborhood Crips, and I think they did have some Mexicans, but mostly it was just blacks. And I can remember hearing a rumor from one of my boys that alerted me. He was like, hey, and, myself and two of my brothers at the time went to this junior high, Hostler Junior High, and they said, man, they know about you guys. They want to cord you in. What they're looking to do is try to catch you guys at the end of school, when you're by yourselves and stuff like that. So I started, to the best of listen, there weren't a lot of routes to take. So I would just exit a different part of the school. I would make sure that I was always looking around to see if I saw any black in-hood members to try and avoid them. My brothers did the same. You take different routes. And I do believe that more or less saved my life. It seriously saved me a beatdown by getting corded in to some gang. And I don't understand why this is I understand if you don't live in the hood, perhaps you're not used to keeping your head in a swivel, but I'm sorry, the hood is coming to you. With Democrats in office, the hood is coming to you. That's what's happening. That's what we're seeing. That's why we're seeing this skyrocketing crime rate across the cities. I can tell you one time in Torrance, California, I can't remember why I was there. I don't even remember exactly who I was with. Perhaps if I was in Torrance, it must have been father or one of my brothers. Maybe we went out there for some event or something. But I can distinctly recall seeing some white kids walking that looked like skinheads. At the time, wearing the Levi jeans rolled up, the black thick suspenders, the white T-shirts, these black jackets, the black Doc Martens, their heads shaved, and it was pretty clear they had a distinct look. I knew to avoid that area. I knew that when we got out of the car, stopped wherever we went, I can recall they were probably a mile or so down the street, and we were walking around the area, stayed in front of a particular building complex or something that I recall, and I didn't walk that way. I racially profiled because I didn't want to get my butt beat or something bad happen if skinheads were to approach me. So I didn't walk that way. And I do believe that saved me a beatdown or probably even worse. And let me say this. When I came in contact with Asians, whether I went to an Asian store, they racially profiled us. Now hindsight 2020, looking back, I don't blame them, especially if you own the Asian liquor store in the hood. I do not blame you. No harm, no foul. I hate to say it. I totally get it now. But I didn't, I racially profiled them in that I was growing up. The way that I was taught is, they were coming into our territory, taking our stuff, listening to Ice Cube, NWA, and just my friends, talking about them and stuff like that. Sadly, I felt like I was more racist, towards them. But the truth of the matter is I wasn't sweating being hurt or being attacked in any way, shape, or form if I ran into an Asian kid or not necessarily a white kid. Now, I do think I share with you the story of the skinheads that I ran into. I would be worried if I'm out somewhere in a podunk town where it's mostly white. You know what? I'm going to keep my head on a swivel. And this is coming from a person. I'm not a racist. I just, if I'm not familiar with you, I'm not familiar with the environment. I know there's some bubbas out there. I know racism still exists. You know what? I'm going to be careful. I'm going to racially profile until I get a sense of who you are. I'm going to racially profile. If I see a couple together, I'm not worried. If I see a black couple together, and I'm on a subway, I'm not worried. If I see a white couple, I'm not worried. If I see an Asian couple, I'm not worried. As a matter of fact, if I see an Asian, I'm not worried. If I see a white, possibly, I'm not worried. But if I see a group of black teens, I'm getting concerned. I'm getting really concerned. No one wants to talk about this stuff, but it's true. It's true. And I do believe that it needs to be, addressed. You know, this kid that was murdered, allegedly murdered, Kayla Ellingson by this guy, Brant. I think his name is Brant. Let me look this up real quick here. This guy was finally arrested for murder, as well as he should have been. And I don't want to forget this story. North Dakota man who ran over teen arrested again and charged with murder. This happened last weekend, as a matter of fact. The North Dakota man who admitted to hitting 18-year-old Kayla Ellingson with his SUV over politics earlier this month was arrested Friday and charged with murder. If I'm looking at this guy and I'm in North Dakota and this guy is looking crazy towards me and he's driving a truck and he's coming close to me or inching towards me, I'm going to racially profile. Now, Kayla Ellingson wouldn't have done that, perhaps. I mean, he was a white. His alleged murderer is white. You know, perhaps he didn't have that concern. But me, as a black person, if I go there, I'm going to be concerned about that. I'm going to look for the hicks that are giving me the stink eye or something like that. And listen, I'm using that word hicks. I don't mean to offend. I'm just using it so I can make a point. All right. But if somebody looks like, they probably haven't been around black people a lot, you know, and they're looking at me crazy, I'm going to keep my head on a swivel. This is the way you're going to have to start thinking. You know, I hated growing up in the hood. I hated it. Not all the time, but for a good period of time, especially when I realized that there was a better life out there. But the sad thing is, I think this is coming to a city near you. You can no longer afford to be naive about the violence that is going to occur around you. And it's coming. It's spreading like a cancer, and we're not going to be able to get away from it. So consider this a warning, if you will. Keep your head on a swivel. Racial profiling will save your life. And I hope... I'm not going to drag this podcast out, but after watching this video, it's something that needs to be said. It's something that needs to be said. You know, it's funny that the other day, the left went crazy in social media. I mean, just went crazy over Kanye West and Candace Owens wearing White Lives Matter t-shirt. You know what's crazy? I thought about writing a column titled that, and I never did it. Man, do I wish I would have written that. But nonetheless, they did it. But as I think about it, it needed to be said. I know people are saying, hey, well, Carl, come on, all lives matter. No, what we need to say is that white lives matter. White lives matter too. I agree with you. All lives matter. But I think that needed to be done. The more that I think about it, it needed to be done because someone needs to say, hey, we're going to stand up for the people that are being persecuted, that are being lied about, that are being put into one basket, that are being racially profiled simply because they happen to have fair skin, and generalized simply because they happen to have fair skin. The same is true for Jewish people. A lot of anti-Semitism rising inside of the United States. Guys, listen, I'm not going to belabor this point, but I just wanted to remind you and show you this video and tell you to please, please, please profile. Cops do it. They should do it. You should do it too if you want to stay safe. I appreciate you tuning in to this edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Please subscribe to the podcast wherever podcasts are found. Also follow me on social media, The Carl Jackson Show, The Carl Jackson Show, wherever I am on social media. And please support my sponsor, Mike Lindell, MyPillow, MyPillow.com. Please take advantage of it. Christmas is coming up. It'll be here before you know it. So take advantage of this great deal for the Percale bed sheets as well as the Giza Dream sheets, $29.98. Those things normally sell for $89.98. And all you have to do is go to mypillow.com, click on the radio listener square, type in the promo code Carl, or give them a call, 1-800-858-0263, 1-800-858-0263. Keep your head on a swivel, racially profile. If an area or something feels unsafe or weird to you, pay attention to your instincts and stay safe. I'm telling you right now, I believe that the United States of America, as violent as it is right now, it's going to get worse before it gets better. All right, guys, until next time, don't grow weary doing good. God bless you.